Wait, we can.
Oh, it's at the discretion of the chair. Oh, I'm drunk with power.
Just texted
Chair
him.
McLeod, you're live.
Thank you. Perfect. It's Monday, the 1st of March. It's 5 p.m. and I call to order this meeting of the Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee for the town of Collingwood by acknowledging that Collingwood is located on the traditional territory of the Indigenous peoples of Turtle Island, including the traditional lands of the Anishinaabe, the Haudenosaunee, and Ojibwe people, and on lands connected with the Lake Simcoe-Nottawasaga Treaty of 1818. This is the home of a diverse range of Indigenous peoples whom we recognize as contemporary stewards of the land and vital contributors to our society. I will look for an adoption of the agenda. We have an amendment to the agenda, an attachment added, which is 6.3, the Beach to Blue Cycling Corridor proposal, which is connected to the minutes of the Trails and Active Transportation Committee minutes, but I will look for an adoption of the agenda. Moved by Member Berman and seconded by Member Comey that the content of the Corporate and Community Services Standing Committee agenda for March the 1st, 2021 be adopted as amended, including 6.3 Beach to Blue Cycling Corridor proposal. And we'll take the vote on that. All in favor? None opposed. Thank you. Business arising from the previous meeting. Is there business arising from the previous meeting from any of the members of this committee? Seeing none, declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any declarations of pecuniary or conflict of interest to be made for this committee meeting? No. Staff reports, and we do have a staff report. It is item C 2021-4, and I will look to, who will I look to? Clerk Almus to present the staff report.
Thank you, Chair McLeod. I will have our Deputy Clerk, Becky Tall, present this report, and it's regarding our patios and street closures in the downtown and potential extensions.
Thank you so much. Deputy Clerk Dahl.
Chair McLeod. So I have a PowerPoint presentation. All right, so the purpose of the initial report that we brought forward last June was as a result of COVID to help the businesses in the downtown be able to operate by expanding onto the sidewalk for their merchandise sales and patios. We're here tonight because that bylaw was put into place for 1 year and it's due to expire in June, and patio season usually starts up in April. So we were just wanted to get the new application process ready to go for those interested in using the sidewalk again in 2021. This bylaw is requested to be extended to, again, alleviate some of the constraints that COVID has had on these downtown businesses and allowing them to expand their patios and merchandise areas again on the sidewalk for 2021. Could I go to slide 3? Yeah. So the Boulevard Encroachment Permit Bylaw was enacted and passed in June 2020, like I had said, and it provided flexibility for fencing requirements for patios operating on the sidewalk year round, expanding patios beyond the 30-foot cap on the sidewalk and allowing them to expand into the on-street parking areas, not requiring the use of tents for curbside merchandise display areas, ability for merchandise to be sold outside of their stores, both on weekends and during the week, and to provide us with the ability to explore opportunities for temporary pedestrian walkways through closing of streets in the downtown. Next slide. So in 2020, we had 13 restaurants being issued a permit to operate a patio on a sidewalk. 7 expanded their patios onto the on-street parking areas, 2 expanded along the sidewalk, and 2 continued their patios through the winter season until we were shut down just after Christmas. Next slide. For the merchandise display areas, we had 3 permits issued for sidewalk merchandise display areas. And these are the larger ones that you'll see on the sidewalk with various clothing racks and sometimes under a tent. 1 permit holder continued to provide their merchandise on the sidewalk during the winter season as well. Next slide. And then in 2020, we explored the temporary pedestrian street walk. This was our first pilot was held on July 25th in 2020, and it provided a pedestrian corridor allowing people and cyclists to explore Simcoe Street in a vehicle-free zone and allow them to physically distance with requirements that were currently in place. The opportunities for businesses were offered for them to expand onto the street and roadways as they currently do this with the width of the existing sidewalk, and still maintaining a 2-meter pedestrian walkway along the road or sidewalk. The first pilot included Simcoe Street from here, Ontario to St. Paul Street. Areas on Simcoe Street where merchandise was set out was quite active during this pilot project, but there was some concerns expressed from businesses and property owners affected by the closure, which included access to their businesses and residents and the removal of on-street parking during these closures. Additional pilots were tested on Simcoe Street just between the section of St. Marie and St. Paul during the month of August, and these were quite successful. And I believe they ended up having 4 events. They were supposed to have 6, but there was 2 weather days that they had to cancel on. Next slide. So what we're looking for 2021 is to continue with our temporary Boulevard encroachment permit bylaw and have it effective until April 1st, 2022. This will bring us to that next patio season. In this amendment to allow this bylaw to continue, we'll have staff continue to monitor impacts to parking in the downtown, as this could be a concern if we want to implement on-street patios permanently going forward. We also want to update the application package to include some patio construction guidelines, update permit to include provisions to the use of the public sidewalk year-round, as opposed to just within the summer, fall and spring months. We want to provide a registry on the website that lists all the businesses that have permits, just to bring some more awareness to the program and the requirement for a permit. And we are also contemplating requests for temporary road closures to be processed through the Public Works special events permit. Next slide. So I'll just touch on a few of the major items that we're looking at for the 2021 program. Extending the bylaw obviously is key number 1, and we're looking at April 1st again because it aligns with the patio season, and it'll provide some more flexibility for these downtown businesses that continue to be hit by these restrictions put into place because of COVID. Next slide. So the on-street parking, we're looking at providing some construction guidelines just to provide some consistency in the way they look and feel, especially along here Ontario Street, to keep in line with the beautification of the downtown that the BIA works very hard at, and to ensure our Collingwood Downtown Heritage Conservation District Plan is being adhered to as well. So in this, we're looking at patios that are located on the street to be raised by a curb or a wooden platform to match up with the curb. This not only eliminates the curb barrier that's in place, but it also elevates the patio up a little bit higher, so it's more visible when you're traveling in a vehicle along here Ontario Street, with the additional parking that's generally located beside them. We're also looking at a standard for the fencing along the roadway, just to ensure public safety is being considered along there too. If for some reason there's a patio owner that cannot afford to put a wooden structure on the road to expand their patio, we did get an email from the ministry regarding the AOD requirements, and they suggest if you cannot do that, a ramp be built so the patio is fully accessible to all. So that will also be included in those terms and conditions. Next slide. the operation of sidewalk patios and merchandise year round. We didn't know the extent of COVID at the time that this bylaw was first drafted. So permits were issued for October 31st up until October 31st. And then there was continued interest to continue on with these patios and merchandise past that point. Espresso Post and Caesar Bar both continued their patios up until the lockdown at Christmas time. And I believe that they did quite well with their patios. We also had one merchandise that extended using the sidewalk during the winter months as well. Caesar Bar was operational again until today with their patio on the sidewalk as well. By doing this, we were thinking about the ability to issue just one permit that contains all the conditions for either a summer or winter patio, and that way we're not having to get these restaurant owners and businesses to reapply every 6 months for a permit. It'd just be valid for the entire year. Next slide. The idea of the Boulevard Encroachment Registry is to bring greater communication between the various inspection agencies. This registry would be posted on our website and would contain the business names, the permit type that was issued, and any contact information that they might need. It also brings greater awareness to who has a permit and who doesn't have a permit. And I think it will also provide some accountability to the permit holder to ensure that they're adhering to the terms and conditions of their permit. Slide. The temporary road closures being processed through special events. So we're recommending this because a road closure to this magnitude has a lot of moving parts. It involves rerouting of public transit, emergency service access, road closure, barriers, notices to affected businesses and residents. And the special events permit already has these things in place and the process in place to do it and the staff in place to do it. So we're recommending that it go forward through that process. Should this type of pilot project be proposed to continue for on a more permanent basis in 2021, then we're recommending a cost benefit analysis be reviewed together with how to resolve the negative impacts of some of the businesses and residents had during these road closures. Next slide. So what we're asking of the committee tonight is to accept the recommendation put in the report that council and I can pass a bylaw to extend the use of the Boulevard Encroachment Permit bylaw through to April 1st, 2022 as a mechanism to further assist businesses who have been impacted by COVID-19 by providing flexibility to the use of the public sidewalk and on-street parking areas for expansion of their patios and merchandise sales areas. So that's it from a presentation. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Deputy Clerk Dahl, and I will look to any members of the public who are interested in commenting on your presentation. I'll look to Clerk Almas to check to see whether there's any who want to have a say.
Certainly, through the chair, we do have Cassie McKell from a Lowdown Bar that would like to speak at this time. And while we allow her to speak, we will advise the other attendees if they wish to speak to this item to please press the raise your hand feature, or if you're on the phone, press *9 and we will unmute you. All right, Cassie should be available.
Can you hear me?
Can too.
Yeah, okay, great. Hello, everyone. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you tonight. I'm very excited at the opportunity that we are going to be able to use the street parking patio option that we had last summer. Just in regards to one thing I wanted to bring up to consider that we would hope the staff and council would consider is the expenses that come along with the deck and fencing requirements. Just an estimate for my patio alone would be somewhere between $6,000 and $7,000 that I'd be looking at spending to build a patio deck and then the metal fencing that would go around it, which I can understand if this is a long-term plan that we would have to invest that money. But if we're just looking at a bylaw that's only going to be in place for this one summer, it does make me pretty hesitant. There's also the cost of storing all this equipment that I'll have to pay for the rest of the year. So I know last year it was quite flexible. We used kind of rope fencing, and so obviously that wasn't a huge investment for us. So I just asked that you would maybe consider allowing something like that again, so that for this year we can recoup the losses that we've had. And then going into summer of 2022, if you're looking at a more permanent bylaw that would be, we are going to allow patios for on the road, then something like investing that money, I'd feel much more comfortable with. So just something I'd hope that everyone could consider.
Thank you so much. We'll definitely take that into consideration and hope that staff will do the same when they are crafting our future staff reports. Any questions of Ms. McCaskill from members of the committee? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Any other questions from the public or comments?
At this time, we do. We have Mr. Richard Lux would like to speak, so we'll allow him to speak to the staff report.
Terrific. Thank you and welcome.
Yes, hi. Thanks for this. Thanks for bringing this forward again. First of all, I think it was a great initiative last year, and I wanted to thank the Clerk's Department for all the hard work that they put into putting this together last year, and again in preparing this year's proposal. You know, we have, as it's noted in the report, we do have very narrow sidewalks on Simcoe Street. So this makes this all the more critical to have this this kind of allowance for patio space and for merchandise space. I do want to echo Cassie's concerns about the costs. If this is just a one-year initiative, that perhaps you would want to consider this on a more ongoing basis, so those costs could be spread out over a number of years. I think that would be very helpful. And I just wanted to make sure that everyone does realize that in terms of the second block, there's completely full agreement and full support from all the businesses that are located there, all the artists, the galleries, the businesses at the Tremont, the Duplex with Jason Alexander. He was a big participant last year. And of course at 65 Simcoe. So there's a full majority. And I should add that the majority of those businesses and artists will be taking part again this year if this does happen. We had a little bit of an issue with a residential property owner that's actually located on St. Paul Street, and I hope that's something that can be worked out so that we can have the entire block for these Saturday events. And yes, so I want to thank you very much and appreciate this effort. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone with comments or questions for Mr. Lex? Thanks for coming to see us. Or, well, you see us, we don't see you.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'll turn to the members of the committee and—
Sorry.
There's more.
There's more. We have another individual. Dave Saunders would like to speak.
Welcome, Mr. Saunders. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for allowing me to speak. I'm past chairman of the BMFA, so I was quite involved in the setup and takedown of the art on Simcoe Street on those test day and then the other Saturdays that we were allowed to do that. And from our standpoint, it was very successful. So I would just reiterate that we would like to keep going, and if possible, expand it to more weeks, more Saturdays. And we had, I was actually one of the tear down people and put up people. So I was there most of the time. And I did a rough count of the folks that were coming through. And I was running about 200 people that would be customers, not exhibitors. And although many of them were from Collingwood locals, quite a few of them weren't. They were from out of town. And I think the whole event has a possibility of being very successful. And you know, it was a excuse me, a toe in the water sort of. It has the potential to go and grow and become a destination. And I think that our business partners in the downtown core and the BIA will benefit over time from the success that the artists will see. We ran polls of the artists, exhibitors, and we were restricted to the number that we could have, partly because of COVID and partly because of the issue with the adjacent property. Virtually everyone that was outside on the outside venue, we had some inside ones as well that weren't quite as pleased. But the outside venue folks everyone was very positive about it, and our shop itself was we were taking care of the financial part of it for them, because we have the Moneris and so on, and we were busy. It brought a lot of people through the store as well. It was probably our 3 or 4 biggest days of the year, which the shop doesn't do a lot of volume, but it certainly helps. So I think it's got great upside potential, and I think that over time everyone in the BIA will embrace it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for Mr. Saunders from members of the committee? All right. Thank you so much for coming to see us. Any
And
more?
Yes, Chair McLeod. So we have Mark and Christine from Espresso Post.
Hello, are we
Hello.
on?
Hi, welcome.
Hi.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We just wanted to reiterate how successful the Boulevard encroachment was last summer. We really didn't hear anything but positives. Nobody complained about lack of parking. Everybody really enjoyed the extra animation that was on the street, plus the extra space that they could sit and enjoy the downtown core.
They actually all felt like they were sitting in Europe, even though they were in Collingwood. So given that they couldn't go to Europe, it was kind of a nice experience for most people.
Yeah, so our only question, maybe we missed it in the presentation, we were hoping that it would be sooner than later. We didn't get to do the Boulevard encroachment until well into the summer, but would this be something that could be immediately April 1st, I think typically patio season starts. That would be our request. Yeah.
Thank you. And I'll direct that question to Deputy Clerk Dahl, who appears to be the point person on this entire file.
Yeah, through Chair McLeod to Mark and Christine. The intent is that it goes to council on March 15th. So we'll be able to get all your permits issued before April 1st, or if weather is nicer before then, hopefully as soon as the good weather hits.
Thank you so much.
Great, thanks.
There we go. Any questions or comments from the members of the council, of the committee to Mark and Christine Gross? Mayor Saunderson.
Yes, thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, to Christine and Mark. Do you share the concerns about the cost for the 1 year extension? We heard from Cassie.
Yeah, we already did the decking last year, so we no longer have, we had to foot the bill for that, which was quite expensive because we did the decking not only for Espresso Post on the main street, but also we did the decking for 65 Simcoe Street. So that has already been covered. It was a big expense, but for us, we felt like it was necessary because a lot of our customers are a little bit older and we definitely didn't want them tripping. As for the railing around, we had already had a little bit of the metal railing from the previous patio. So we used part of that for her Ontario, and then we added to it with rope. And then at Simcoe Street, we just did the roping, and we felt that that was enough to, it looked great. It didn't look ramshackle. It looked really quite nice, I think. And people loved the way that both decks looked. So I think that it can be done in a tasteful way without, as long as we don't need to do the metal fencing. Metal fencing is quite expensive. So we would prefer not to incur that cost because things are running pretty tight right now.
And then Cassie's numbers, she's quoted some accurate numbers.
For sure.
The decking, it is that kind of investment for the square footage. So yeah, it's not cheap. But like she said, if this is a permanent thing that happens every summer for the next 10 years or whatever, you know, then it's something businesses will maybe be able to handle. Right?
We actually, I mean, whether we were naive or not, we expected that we would continue to do the encroachment. So I think that's why we jumped the gun and did the decking last year. So we're hoping that we can continue to use the decking going forward.
And it sounded like that the town, they secured the Patiolicious website and did some investment on the marketing aspect of that. So we thought that was a good move, a useful move, and something that the town and the marketing department should continue with, because, you know, you've put in that investment and it has been successful.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other questions from members of the committee for Mark and Christine? Thanks for coming to see us.
Thank you.
Any further, Clerk Almas?
It appears that that's it, Chair McLeod.
And so we will get the recommendation for the report on the table before we have questions from members of the committee. And so it is C 2021-04, update to Economic Recovery and Support Task Force, action item 4, community relaunch, potential pilot locations, street encroachments, patios, and merchandise displays. And that staff report, I read the whole thing in, don't I, Clerk Almas? That staff report C 2021-04 be received, and that council enact and pass a bylaw to extend the use of bylaw number 2020-40 Boulevard Encroachment Permit Bylaw through to April the 1st of 2022 as a mechanism to further assist local businesses who have been impacted by COVID-19 by providing flexibility to use the use of the public sidewalk and on-street parking areas for the expansion of patios and merchandise display areas in the downtown. May I have a mover and a seconder, please? Councillor Berman and Councillor Comey. And questions, comments, queries? Councillor Comey.
Thanks so much, Chair. Through you to Deputy Clerk Goddall, I think it's important to start by saying, you know, we heard it from our businesses. I'm sure the committee all feels the same way, that what an outstanding job you and staff did spearheading both the initiatives we're hearing about, the Simcoe Street closure and the patio encroachments during a really challenging time where emotions, and we see again this evening, emotions are really high. I think it's important that if we could please address, it sounds like 1 and 2 scenarios are before us. It's completely reasonable to hear these businesses saying, now's not a great time for us to be putting a lot of more capital investment into our business. We're already under great pressure. I also think they're already under so many fluid asks at any given time right now. But then I've also heard something that was a really good point, which is there any idea why we're not thinking about continuing this outside of a COVID world, or with understanding that this type of thing might be with us for a while, and that, as we heard from our Espresso Post owners, people are really down with this idea now. A little slice of Europe here, having my coffee outside, I'm dining outside. So I'm saying a few things, I guess. So one part of me is looking towards asking if we can defer this requirement, given that our businesses continue to suffer, layered with the question of, is there any reason we're only extending this another year? That's part 2 of 7 or 9. Thank you.
Deputy Clerk Dahl.
Sure. Through the chair to Councillor Comey. So I'll start with your second question there. So the reason why we're just going through for an extension for years, we don't know what COVID's going to bring this year. And this bylaw brings us a lot of flexibility to move as things move along. So if we were to put a permanent bylaw in place that has certain standards and conditions, then we might not have the flexibility to move with the business's needs as we go through 2021. As for the expenses for the patios to construct a wooden platform, That's both an accessibility requirement that I think needs to be looked at. My main concern is the patios along here Ontario Street, just the way that the parking exists on the road and the volume of traffic on here Ontario Street. It just brings more awareness and visibility to the patios if they're raised up and not just sitting right on the asphalt. And same with the fencing along the roadway. It's only the fencing that's along the roadway that we're looking to be more stable. Should something happen, it creates a little bit more of a barrier and safety mechanism for those sitting on the patio area. And with that, it doesn't necessarily have to be a metal fence. It could be wood. You know, we can look at those options. It's not carved in stone that has to be a metal iron fence along those roadways.
Thank you, through you, Chair McLeod. Thank you, Deputy Clerk Dahl. Those are two great answers that make a lot of sense. And I suppose we're just encouraging, you know, consideration, which I'm sure you'll bring to those who might face a financial concern. The other part of your report, of course, speaks to that really well-received Simcoe pilot. And if you could kindly clarify, through you, Chair, is that, I wasn't sure, are we required to ask for staff to continue to look at doing that again? Or is it, it wasn't clear to me if it was a definite go again.
Deputy Clerk Dahl?
Through the chair to Councillor Comey, we weren't asking for it to be continued. I think if it was something to be more of a permanent position where council wanted to close Simcoe Street for the entire 4 months of summertime, then we might need further direction from that. But if it's going through a special event permit and going through a temporary road closure just for Saturday throughout the summers, then that's covered under this.
Does that assist, Councillor Comey?
You know, I apologize, I'm still not following. Who did Simcoe Street apply for that special permit, or was that a council-led initiative? I'm sorry, I guess that's what I'm not clear on.
Sorry, so the first one that include all of Simcoe Street, the town closed that as a pedestrian walkway, and people were allowed to put their stuff on there if they had a business along that street. The other closures that happened were for the one section of Simcoe Street, and that was done through a special event permit through, I think the BMFA was the ones that applied for it, and they invited other ones to come. What staff struggled with is, you know, a road closure with almost like a special event like that, where you have merchants for sale, you know, people from the public wanting to participate in everything. That's an event. And for one person in clerk services to manage all of that, it's beyond my capacity. So I would prefer it go through a special events permit where it goes through all the right people and approvals to ensure it flows properly.
Thank you for clarifying that. That does make perfect sense. And I would just echo it. It really was well received. So we'll see if they put that event permit in. I'm just going to offer, if you don't mind, share one final comment that, you know, every time we talk about encroachments and street encroachments, I think it's a wonderful synergy opportunity for the town with our climate emergency, our wayfinding program, and encouraging our community to come downtown using alternative methods. So, you know, we always get our backs up a little bit. We always have our residents that are very, very concerned about parking, but we saw it in action. It worked really well. It was incredibly well received by our residents. I'm not aware of it very much, if any, negative feedback. So I hope as a community and as a town, we just continue to, we have our lovely new bike parking shelter up. So I hope we continue to encourage our residents to find other ways to come downtown so our merchants can continue to benefit from these encroachments. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Comey. Any other comments, questions, or queries from the committee? Mayor Saunderson.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Deputy Clerk Dahl. I know last summer, I think we reduced the speed limit on here Ontario Street out in front of the stores. Are we anticipating doing that again this year as part of the patios?
Through the chair to Mayor Saunderson, so that speed limit is still in effect. So it's still a 40 through the main section of here Ontario Street as you go downtown. That bylaw isn't in effect until it's repealed. So it continues along with this continuation of the Boulevard bylaw this year.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions from members of the committee? All right, thank you. And so we have a mover and a seconder, and I will call the question. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you so much. My only concern about it is the amount of money I spent on art last year. So we move on to item number 6 is, that's not true, I got quite a bargain. Reports and minutes of other committees and boards, and that is that the minutes of the various committees and boards provided below be received and recommendations contained therein be approved, and that includes item 6.1, the Accessibility Advisory Committee minutes from their meeting of November 19th, 2020. 6.2, the Museum Advisory Committee minutes from February 18th of 2021, and 6.3, the Trails and Active Transportation Advisory Committee minutes, and the Beach to Blue Cycling Corridor proposal. I need a mover and a seconder. Thank you, Vice Chair Madigan and Councillor Berman. Any of these items need to be discussed or questioned, members of the committee? Councillor Comey.
Thank you so much, Chair McLeod. Well, I guess my first question through you to Director Culver, if he doesn't mind, just a quick thing. It sounds like a really nice thing. I don't know if you happen to know any more about it. Is noted in the Trails and Active Transportation minutes. Jack Marley mentions they hired a student to help with some garden work at the Labyrinth, and it just sounds really lovely. It sounds like one of those good news stories. Do you have any more details about that?
Excuse me, through you, Chair. Not a lot more detail. I know that it's being funded out of the donations that were received to support the Labyrinth. They've been able to hire a student that works in conjunction with our Parks Department in terms of the advice we provide to look after the gardens. But it does take a nice labor load off of the Parks Department and provides some specific attention to the Labyrinth. But again, beyond knowing that it's funded by the donation fund that was accrued to build the Labyrinth, I don't have a lot more information. I'm sorry.
Oh no, that's fine. It just was something nice that popped out at me. We're putting a student to work. You get some extra help in the garden. That sounds like very good. And if I may ask, Chair McLeod, is there an action for us on the cycling proposal that's included with this?
I believe there is not. This is merely a receipt for information.
Oh, okay. All right. Then thank you so much.
Any other questions from members of the committee? I actually have one with regard to item number 6.3 in the Beach to Blue Cycling Corridor proposal. And I wonder, again, I believe this is for Executive Director Culver. And has thought been given to the necessity, hopefully in the future, to change that corridor to a different corridor once the work that we are all so excited about on Mountain Road is finished?
I believe that has been discussed. I'm going back and trying to remember the committee meeting, but I believe it was discussed, Madam Chair. I believe that the termination point is currently at, or not sorry, termination, but one of the intersections is at Grey Road 19 and Mountain Road. And I think that could be reconfigured depending upon how Mountain Road evolves, as well as obviously the Trail to Blue.
Yeah, so my thought is currently, I think what I saw in this report is that the current proposal is that cyclists go out 6th Street and then down. And so I'm thinking that once Mountain Road becomes, whether any consideration had been given to that becoming the route instead, and that would mean changing the signage and the mappage. Or would it?
Yeah, so through you, Chair, the challenge with expecting that the Mountain Road route will take you all the way to Grey Road 19 is a bit of a challenge, because the Mountain Road project only goes to 10th line, I believe, at this point. And so in order to get past that on a safe cycling route, the idea is to go through, I think it's called, I can't remember. Honestly, I wish I was better prepared for this, but but regardless, that's the challenge, is that valley, and asking cyclists to inhabit the space with cars. So the 6th road, but in the longer term with a village, Collingwood to Blue route, it could be changed.
There we go. Perhaps I was just having a flurry of anticipation and excitement for the.
No problem.
Thank you, Executive Director Culver. Any other questions from the committee? Oh, okay. So I will call the question. All those in favor of receiving this report or these reports. Thank you. That passes unanimously. We move on to the consent agenda, and the motion is that the general consent agenda, having been given due consideration by the standing committee, be received, and further that the information and opinions provided in the general consent agenda items are that of the author and not verified or approved as being correct. We have 2 items on the consent agenda, including item 7.1, which is a letter from the town of Gravenhurst concerning the Ontario Fire College, and a letter from the Township of Tiny with a letter to the AMO, also regarding the Ontario Fire College. And do any of these items need to be pulled for direction from this committee? All right, so we will receive them. I do have comment to make on one of them, or a question to ask regarding one of them. Although I need to go back to, how did you know it was going to be you, Chief Parr? Chief Parr, I know that these letters are not only on our, I'll go to the rest of the committee first. Sorry, any questions from the committee? Excellent. So I know that these letters that we are receiving here today are not only on our agenda. I know for certain that there are other municipalities that are also passing similar motions and so on. And do you think it is prudent for us to do same, or are you happy with the discussions that have been taking place across the province regarding this decision?
Through you, Chair, it's a very hot topic right now. Just a little background, I have 43 staff that could take advantage of the college, and last year we visited the college 54 times with 42 staff for courses. We were losing that, but again, it's written in stone. It's basically staff are closed, and I don't know what we're going to change. What I would like to see supported, if coming forward, if there's motions from anybody else on receiving funding to offset the cost of the college changing, that would be the important thing going forward. I'm not trying to be a pessimist, but I just believe that I don't think it's going to change. I think that's a direction they took. It's been thought about for a long time. The college has been taking a different direction since my tenure there of many courses. But I think that if we receive and then maybe react to support if they're looking to petition the government for funding for municipal fire services for the opportunity to go to the college.
Thank you for that. And my question to you, and my follow-up question to you then is, what are the budget implications for the closure of that college for the town of Collingwood? Do you have a ballpark of, what does it change? Where do we send our people instead, and does it cost more?
So through you, Chair, what they come up with was a regionalized approach. So they've approached certain fire departments, and they're classified as regional training facilities. They don't have the same, in our area, they don't have the same abilities of this college, because college had a burn house and a full auditorium and Scott's Hall for all that. But we were paying $65 per member per course to go up there. That course could have been 2 weeks or could have been 2 days. And that include food and housing. Now, if we go somewhere, it's a minimum $400 plus external costs if we have to go to, say, somebody like Grimsby, Ontario, that has facilities that can operate. So right now, the deputy and myself are reviewing what courses can be taken online and what courses that we could maybe bring a third party in. When did our budget 2 years ago, we increased our training budget just to accommodate any costs. So we think we're okay now. It's just going forward to be able to get those hands-on courses that we don't have the facilities to do. So projected, I couldn't really do it right now, but I know it's astronomical what would be asked if we tried to do that. So.
Well, we'll look forward to that. Thank you. And I look forward to requests. And so with that, I will call the question. Oh, yes, I will call the question. All those in favor? And that passes unanimously. Thank you. We now move on to item number 8, departmental updates and discussion. And I don't know, do we have any departmental updates planned for this evening? Clerk Almas.
The only update that I would like to provide through yourself as chair and to the committee and to the public is just a reminder that we have our committee and board recruitment going on right now. So I encourage all of those residents that want to get involved. We've seen a lot of people wanting to volunteer, so this is a great opportunity to help the town and your fellow neighbors. And also to bring to light that we have a number of items that are on our Engage Collingwood site that are looking for feedback, input. There's surveys there, so please feel free to go there and fill out those surveys so we can consider all your feedback before bringing back to council to make formal decisions. You're on mute.
Yeah, we move on to item number 9, which is public delegations. Oh, Executive Director Culver, Acting Executive Director Culver.
Yeah, my apologies, Chair, but just very quickly, I wanted to also take the opportunity to mention to the council or committee and the public a reminder about Monday, March 8th, the International Women's Day virtual panel discussion featuring a long list of speakers that I won't even begin to go down. But it looks to be an amazing lineup. It is virtual. We have over 200 registrations with a cap of 300. So everyone is encouraged to register. A long list of sponsors, which I think I should take just a minute to acknowledge the Jen Schulte team, Collingwood Foundry, Devonley Home, Deeger Beaver Services. There's Anonymous Community Donor, the Legion, Turning Point Counseling, Royal Bank Collingwood Branch, RBC Dominion Securities, Galentine's, Collingwood, the Collingwood Museum, and Collingwood Downtown BIA are all sponsors. And then finally, I don't want to recite the entire list, but there are a lot of members of the committee that helped to establish and promote this. So just a nod to them for the hard work that they've done.
Thank you so much. I'm very much looking forward to my goodie bag. And no other departmental updates, I take it. Excellent. Public delegations, maximum of 5 minutes. Members of the public are invited to have a word with us or two. And I will look to Clerk Almas to see if there is any members of the public who would like to come forward.
Yes, Chair McLeod, we have Matt Pretty would like to speak.
Welcome, Matt.
Hi, good evening. Yes, hi, Chair McLeod. It's Matt Pretty here. Can you hear me?
Can too.
That's great. Thanks a lot. I'm just tuning in. I just wanted to check in. I just wanted to suggest that it is a very difficult time, and the departments and the town council and the citizens of Collingwood and Chair McLeod, your media background, it would be great to have more updates from town council. This economic task force is a great initiative to keep an ongoing method of communication and connection with businesses. And we need to talk more about the businesses. I think the oscillator program with Deputy Keith Hall talking and supporting that economic development initiative before, and that extra money they're asking for at the budget meetings in December. Now we know more clearly why and the need for consultants and the departments to work together and field with the businesses out there. Ask them what they need. And maybe that's what we need to do a little bit more. Ask them what they need. And it was interesting, Councillor McLeod, or excuse me, Councillor Hamlin, she's so funny. She says, oh, I'm going to find that out. It took me a day to find that out. You know, she's a researcher. She's involved in law. She knows how to research and she's got a good heart. And that's the type of connection we can make with the greater community, the business community. Keep making those connections, establishing those connections, and really letting people know to be careful. I think at the end of the day is repeating that sense of being careful. And we need to slow down and remember it's a day-by-day situation. And this vaccination, as you're saying, Councillor McLeod, that the vaccination is a big question mark. It's absolutely mental. It's like, what are we at? Like 6% in Canada, or maybe 7% now. But that's just how it's going. And thank God we had flu shot, and I did take mine, and I hope other people might have had the opportunity to get theirs. And at the end of the day, everyone, just repeat and letting each other know what the maintenance is we can do as individuals and the larger business community. Thank you so much for allowing me to connect tonight. Have a good evening.
Thank you. Any other? Okay. And so we now move on to item number 10, other business. Any other business from members of this committee? Which brings us to item number 11, which is the adjournment. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Councillor Comey. All those in favor? Thank you so much. And we do, a reminder, we do have another meeting coming up in 45 minutes. So we will see you back here at 6:35. Scarf down some pasta.